I envision a parliament that will be corruption-free, and I mean totally corruption-free. From looking at the document, the concerns, and listening to President Museveni, and looking at what is going on now, there's nothing that would make the members of public and make government look like a government, make parliament look like people-centered parliament, if we don't kick out corruption. Why? Because President Museveni has raised concerns about parliament being the only other body constitutionally mandated to provide oversight. And oversight includes fighting corruption. But now how shall we, and he raised the question, how will parliament be seen to be fighting corruption if we continue to be corrupt, or parliament is a subject of corruption in the public domain? So the first thing first, get rid of corruption. And then when we get rid of corruption, we get back parliament on its feet as a vanguard of people, where the representative of the people can hold government accountable to provide the oversight and represent the people. The kind of money we see flying around is obscene. This is kind of thing that we need to redirect the events in Parliament to make sure that we have a people-centered, in the real sense. People-centered Parliament will be a Parliament that will be corruption-free, will be accountable to Ugandans, will be accountable, each member will be accountable to each other. And then at the end of the day, we want Parliament where challenges that come are owned by all members. Like now we have no space, sitting space is not adequate. But Parliament has been building its chambers, new chambers, for years. Regardless of that, what caused the challenges, we need to redirect the focus to solve the issue of corruption first. We shall retain confidence, rebuild the dignity, and reclaim the position of Parliament in the legislative agenda and arena of not only Uganda, but in the whole Commonwealth. Parliament has to be a parliament, not where it's a clearinghouse. Parliament is supposed to be where policies are executed, laws are made with clear purpose, and with the mandate to hold errant civil servants who could be corrupt, to hold them to account. So we need to regain the dignity, and we need to sweep through this diligently. Parliament also should be a place where members of Parliament feel respected. And I would love to see a Parliament where the debate is informative. The debate is evidence-based. The debate is well-researched, not a rumor-mongering Parliament. Because what you say remains in the record of Parliament. I would love to see where Parliament is able to be a place where the views of minority are as important as views of the majority. And with the discipline, of the members, I want to see Parliament where the Speaker is accountable. Speaker is not only humble, but Speaker is accountable, politically and otherwise accountable to the members of Parliament and to the nation. We want to see a Parliament where, funds allocated are adequate. We've seen an obscene amount of money. And if we can get corruption out of Parliament, even the money for completing that chambers will be found. We need a parliament which is known for being modest, moderate, not extravagant, but very relevant. We need a parliament where the committees are empowered through provision of resources, and they go out to do the oversight. You're building a hospital in Ajumani, or in Yumbe, or in Karamoja, or in Toro, or a road is being constructed. We want a parliament that will hold the executive accountable on site, not doing post-mortem, waiting for the Auditor General's report. Go in every financial year, go and inspect, monitor, come and assess what is the financial performance of this project, what is the technical performance of this project, so that we avoid the misuse of funds. And in so doing, we shall help the executive in making sure that we get value for money. The cleaning is already going on, and I want to thank President Museveni and General Muhoozi. They are doing what it takes to clean the house. In the whole history of Uganda, and probably in the world, what is happening in our current parliament has never happened. That an outgoing speaker would be investigated towards the end of the term and wait for the report. That report of the investigation will be very informative to give us the time frame. I believe before even I sit in that parliament, the cleaning is already ongoing. And we want to urge Ugandans to continue to support the efforts of President Museveni and all other crusaders. This is a real Chisanja, no sleep. We are waking up, and let all Ugandans wake up and we fight this together. It is not hard if the Wananchi and people of Uganda will want to see corruption coming to an end. And in fact, if we take away corruption in Parliament, then you will be sure that the whole government will be corruption-free. Those who steal cannot steal successfully without collaborating with people in Parliament, in either committees or, in some form of where they are held accountable. Because the Auditor General's reports, they raise audit queries. Where are these being implemented? Where do we scrutinize? So we hope that, and I trust, and I agree with President Museveni, that fighting corruption is not hard. Let's people rethink, and we make the changes in our mindset to rebuild a new parliament based on integrity and not just blind loyalty. Integrity is the foundation of every leadership. We need a parliament that can be believable, a parliament that is not extravagant, a parliament that is responsive to the social, political, and economic concerns of Uganda. Oboth, which my real name is Oboth Maxence Jacob. Oboth is a stage name when we are in the political arena. It's not in my academic documents, and I don't want to change. I went to a rural school in my village called Muwafu Primary School in Toro District, Navioga Town Council now. It used to be a sub-county. I went to Manjas. I actually made the record there. 1988, that's when I sat for P7. I don't know where you were. So, and I got 7 aggregates from there. So that record has not been broken yet. Then I went to Manjas High School. In Manjas High School, I was there for about a term because my parents couldn't afford the fees was about 14,400. So I went to a rural school near, thanks to the government for creating access to universal secondary education and the UPE. So I went to a school called Kiye High School. But honestly, there was nothing high about that school, apart from the name. But then I got opportunity. There was somebody working in National Water who wanted the honest young man to help him at his construction site in Buziga. So I was recommended, as a person who could keep his cement and what, as I go to Gaba Secondary School. So I'm also an OB. I did my senior 4 at St. Denis Sebugwao. Regardless that I got a first grade, a strong first grade from that rural village, I couldn't afford to be in first-class schools like some of you. So I did senior 4 there, and I stayed home looking for ways to raise money. After 2 years, I joined I was fascinated about high schools. So I went to Toro High School again. Why? Because it's a school where I could stay, study up to 1, and the rest of the afternoon I was staying with some missionaries. So it's not correct, I've seen in the media, that I was picked from the streets. No, I met some missionaries and in the church, and I have never lived in the streets. I had my parents, they were not able, but very loving parents. And they couldn't allow me live in the streets. So I finished Toro High, and I went to Makerere University in 1997, and I joined and I did law, which I successfully completed with honors, Bachelor of Laws with honors. And my classmates, I've lost one of them in Parliament, Medad Segona, and yes, so we went to LDC, finished in 2002, and I got a job in 2003, immediately. I got a job with the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. But before that, I worked with a law firm called Mugisha and the Company Advocates in Nkrumah Road there. So, and I worked in the Ministry of Justice for nearly 10 years and resigned to join politics. I was in the regional office, was advising local governments. I'm very familiar with the Local Government Act, and then I went, while I was out there, I got a scholarship in 2006 to go and study Masters of Laws at the University of Minnesota in the United States of America, which the university there, I got there, it's a Master of Laws. I've seen people saying I'm expert on intellectual property. That's one of the course units, and the election law. That's one of the course units, but international, human rights, international law, and yes. So quite well grounded in the basic principles of law. And came back, I actually taught in part-time. I was lecturing at the University of IUIU, Islamic University in Uganda. I lectured there for about, as a part-time. I could go in the evening as I was working in Mbale for about 4 years or so. So after that, I came and joined politics. The first committee assignment, which nobody is talking about, is the committee ad hoc committee that investigated the electricity subsector. That committee, we had specific terms of reference to review the tariffs, look at the concession agreement. So if you like, the recommendations we made to terminate the concession agreement between Omeme and the government of Uganda is this man here who chaired that committee with among other people. And nothing was so tempting. Nothing had so much interest like that committee. And also were to review the issues of tariffs, as was reviewed first by General Salim Saleh. They had a subcommittee which he was the chair, and the Right Honorable Jacob Olanya was the secretary. So we reviewed that, we looked at the injustices, and we came up with a very good report that most Ugandans, they seem to have forgotten. So that was my launch pad. Only after 3 months in Parliament, I got to share that committee, which we moved around. We looked at the construction of Bujagali. We are the ones who found out that that dam was the most expensive dam ever built on planet Earth because of the rating. We made significant recommendation, which government has adopted, and they chose to pay off. And I'm so happy. The issue of Yaka, prepaid Yaka meters, it was that committee that came up with that resolution. That Omeme used to just look at a house, that this is three-bedroom the house, possibly, and then they would estimate 300,000 per month. Now that is done. But we had a lot of challenges during the investigation, which not many people know of. I think that committee prepared me for any task. Then after a short time, I was made the chair legal rules, discipline and privileges. And for 2.5 years, looking at the rules of Parliament, which took us about 2 years, because it was massive, including the rates, the tariffs of what the president looked at, the rates now which the president is promoting, about 5 cents. Ugandan electricity, we have hydroelectricity is not supposed to be very expensive. So we gained a lot of experience. We went to Akasombo Dam, we went to Ghana, we did some on-desk benchmarking, looking at reviewing literature in South Africa, and we came up with one of the best recommendations, where there was no corruption. We did not succumb, and we had a lot of temptation. I know it as an individual. So many people came with money for us to divert our recommendation. And I want to thank President Museveni for the support at that time, and General Sale gave me the assurances and the security to help us do what we were supposed to do. So after that 2 years, the remaining second session of the sessional committee, I took over from Fox actually. Fox had the first 2.5 years, so I did the last one up to 2016 or 2015 before we went for the election. So when I won the election, every person should know I am the first Japadola ever to win a second term from post-colonial period in Uganda. And it did not take that they looked at my height, but I think they looked at, I gained favor, divine favor, which I only can attribute to God, to be the first to win that election, to be re-elected. And not only once, but now 4 times. I'm the 8th born of only boys. My father and mother had 8 children, and none of them was a girl. So you can imagine I'm number 8, kind of a defender. So, but not for Arsenal, should be for Man U. Yeah, so, but that's a debate for another day. So basically, when I came back 2016, I was appointed. And by the way, I did not apply, because I was an independent member of Parliament for 2 terms. I did not apply to be the chair legal. The president, in his own wisdom, as chair of SEC, approved me that time. And he gave me Madame Rakojo, Honorable Robina Rakojo, to be my vice. We did what I thought was a good job. We reviewed many laws, including the Succession Act, which had been there from 1923. Nobody had ever thought about. But probably most what people think about is the constitution amendment, which came much later, and which is, to me, it had no problem, because what the amendments were forward-looking. The amendments were not targeting anything, but most people only looked at the age limit, and they looked at the age limit, the upper limit. They did not look at the lower limit. Some of these presidential candidates we've been seeing, they would not have had any chance to compete in Uganda, because the old law provided the age of 35 and above. But we've had the Katumba Oyes and the rest below that. So why people could not credit us for doing a very good job because of the age of 75. So now there is no age limit. There is only minimum age of 18. And that applies even to the LC5s. There are so many young people who have been elected as LC5s who would not have been if it was not for that constitutional amendment. So we also worked on presidential election petitions. We tried to improve those things. But for 5 years, we were handling the legal committee. And after the legal committee came back 2021, I became a Minister of State in charge of defense. And I did that job for about 2.5 years. And by God's grace, I was elevated to full cabinet minister, that I'm now the outgoing Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs. Not for any reason. I take seriously my work. I take my assignments serious. I know where I've come from. I know I don't have a godfather, but I have a God who is my father. Isn't that the difference? I don't have a godfather, but I have a God who is my father. In whatever I do, I try to please him, whether in secret or in public, and then also be at peace with people I work with. I love teamwork. So with this, being in Parliament for nearly 10 years, I was in Parliament as a chairperson. And currently, I don't think anybody has that kind of being there for like 9.5 years. The few months, 3 months, I joined in May, became chairperson in August. So all my other years and months, I was a chairperson, leading a committee. My committee did a great work. We worked as a team. I did not shine alone. And that is evident from how many people from legal committee became ministers in 2021, including the Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja, who was a member of the legal committee, you know. So Honorable Kafuzi, Honorable Boa, Honorable Bote Ongalo, Honorable Rose Lili, Honorable Helen Nasamu, and of course myself, who were all members of the legal committee. So I'm excited about the proposal to have me take the top leadership of Parliament, not because of anything else, but I believe that the chairman of the party, the president, and the team are looking at redeeming, restoring, reviving, and restarting that Parliament. And I think it's a challenge that I've prepared my mind, not only now. I saw that when the late Olanya died, and we had our own way. I think I've expressed interest to be Deputy Speaker before, twice, then once as a Speaker when the late Olanya died. Why? Because I thought the Deputy Speaker then, Right Honorable Anita had only been there for 8-9 months. She had not grounded herself in parliamentary practice and regulations or rules, and I thought that from the training that I had from the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee it would have been an opportunity to go and rescue the situation. So those who decided as they decided. But as a Christian, you know, God's timing is the best. So I didn't contest for anything else. And this one, and I've gotten friends from wherever, and I think we are ready now. We are ready. We are ready for the challenge. And I see it as an opportunity to really do what we are supposed to do. Parliament should gain the dignity, should gain. These days, civil servants, when they are called accounting officers, they never dread the Parliament because it's a transactional place, you know. It used to be that when civil servants are summoned, some would go to hospitals because they are put on the wall. The MPs would put those who are misusing government resources against the wall to make sure that they account. That is normal. People now come to Parliament to just show how smart they are because the transactions are done behind the scenes. They come just here for ceremonies. That is going to change. The executive function is that they are the man mandated to do the transaction on behalf of Ugandans. The president is the head of executive, the political head overall, fountain of honor, but with the will of every single Ugandan and the mandate. He's the only one who gets votes from everyone in Uganda. And the majority, if he wins, gets the majority like he did, you know, he becomes the president. So we should help to give effect to what the wishes of Ugandans would be. And that is done through representatives of the people, Parliament. I wouldn't want to humiliate any member of Parliament as a speaker. Because when you humiliate somebody, you're humiliating the whole constituency. Because I also want to change the narrative that Parliament is not a constituent assembly. Most Ugandans still have this mindset that a member of Parliament is not a delegate. When you're choosing a member of Parliament, you're choosing a representative, a person who will make decision on your behalf without asking you. A delegate has to come back and ask. So we need, when you are choosing a member of Parliament, know that you are choosing the very best. So that when that very best, the honorable members are there, they are the best from their constituencies. They need decorum in the House, but also they need decorum to themselves. So I would expect them that they would be very well informed. Parliament is a place where researchers are paid to do research, you know, for you on any topic you want. So to enhance your debate and the ability to articulate on the views. So, yeah. So I want to appeal for the support of all Ugandans and members of Parliament I would love to be a speaker for everyone and the Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, not a speaker of a political party, not a speaker of a particular region. Good members of Parliament make a good speaker. That is the belief that we shared with the late Honorable Jacob Olanya, and that, but in all the works of members of Parliament and the Speaker, should be able to ask members of Parliament and all Ugandans to pray for Uganda.
New Vision TV. Stream smart, stream New Vision.